you weren't part of the hearing, or you probably watched the hearing. What was your principal takeaway, just off the top of your head? I want a hook to begin with, and then I've got a bunch of specifics. But what did you take away from this hearing?
There's still a lot of unanswered questions. As everybody who watched that and has become aware of it, it was a catastrophic failure. President Trump, literally by the grace of God, turned one direction, the only time he turned the direction the whole speech, which saved his life. How that building wasn't in the perimeter, there's still not really good answers to that. I think the other takeaway, Larry, is these folks should be having a press conference daily, in my view, to inform people, telling us what you know. They shouldn't have, they need to answer questions in front of Congress. People need to ultimately be held accountable for this failure. But I don't understand the lack of communication. It certainly only feeds, theories that are out there that are either true or not true. And so I just think they need to be way more communicative. But no doubt, catastrophic failure. And the truth is, they were aware of this guy an hour ahead of time, lost him. I mean, the best we can configure from all the testimony now, until about 6 minutes before, whether or not they had eyes on him. But there's some belief that they had eyes on him at least a couple of minutes before. So again, all of this conflicting information has to be cleared up. They have to be open and transparent, I think, for the American people to have any semblance of faith. I mean, there's a lot, and it's also, Larry, one other point. It's a tale of, it's sort of a two-part tale here. The Secret Service agents who jumped on President Trump were heroic in that, right? That's their job, and they did their job. But the planning for all of this and the lack of communication and not having, interoperability of the communication devices is inexcusable.
One thing, I couldn't agree more, by the way. Mr. Trump has said the same thing. The people that fell all over him assumed the usual role of Secret Service, which is, if they had to, put themselves in front of a bullet to protect the president, or in this case, the former president. One thing that strikes me as a layperson in this, but I've been following this, and we've had a lot of discussion on this show, there seems to have been a severe lack of cooperation between the local police authorities and the Secret Service. And I don't understand that. And there are some people, there are a lot of rumors around, this goes to your point, I wish there was more transparency. There are a lot of rumors around that the Secret Service don't respect the local authorities, the Secret Service didn't show up for meetings of the local authorities, and then there are other rumors with respect to the FBI that they don't get along, there's bad blood, the FBI thinks it's superior. I mean, if we can't work with state and local authorities who know the turf better, all is lost, it seems to me. And they had their eyes on this guy quite a few minutes before the actual shooting.
Yeah, you've got that dynamic at play. Then you actually have on the ground, Larry, of supposedly maybe a warning went out, but there was interoperability issues on the communication devices that the right people who maybe could have done something earlier weren't even aware of that. I mean, that is a huge breakdown. There's no, so I just think all the way around here, this is a confluence of a bunch of failures, planning, execution at the time of what was actually happening on the ground. And so, the American people deserve answers. I mean, this was thankfully a failed assassination attempt, but I mean, we've all speculated what could have happened. I mean, it was just, anyway, so I think that they need to be way more transparent. They need to come clean on this. There's also some speculation that maybe the Secret Service hasn't even interviewed local folks in this investigation, or whether it's the FBI interviewing people in this investigation. People have to come together here, and we have to diagnose what happened and make sure this never happens again.
Nobody seems to know why the Secret Service didn't run a drone covering the whole area.
Well, the shooter did. Shooter did. He ran a drone. And so, I mean, again, this is, and we also have to get to the bottom of, Larry, the Trump's team and his detail asking for more help.
Yeah.
And that was denied.
Yep.
Why was it denied? How many times? I mean, clearly, you don't have to be a professional in law enforcement to understand President Trump is at risk all the time. And so we need to get to the bottom of that, too, and why that additional protection was been denied over and over again.
At least, I mean, again, from this hearing, at least the new head or the acting head of the Secret Service acknowledged that it was a huge mistake, and he said there are no excuses and so forth and so on. That's a lot better than the Cheeto woman who wouldn't even give up that much. I mean, at least there's a little humility creeping into the story and maybe some urgency into the investigation. I mean, one can only hope, but I kind of looked at that as a, slightly positive sign.
Yeah, but again, I think they got to be way more communicative and give more updates. American people deserve that.
Let me jump off that to a different topic. Joe Biden would have run against the Supreme Court if he were running for president, but I think Kamala Harris agrees with him. He wants to no matter what they say, Senator Schmitt, my take is they want to stack the court, okay, FDR style, which is Joe Biden's hero. No matter what they say, they want to stack the court. If they ever had the Senate votes to break the filibuster and do that, they would do that. What do you think? You're a distinguished former state attorney general. You might be a future U.S. attorney general for all I know. This may fall into your lap in the next year. I mean, isn't that what they want to do? They want to stack the bloody court.
Absolutely. This is not even, they're not even trying to hide this. The whole purpose of them trying to undermine the credibility of the court because they don't like a couple of decisions is to ultimately pack the court. And you're right about that, Larry. If they ever get to 51 without Manchin and Sinema, and they have the House and they have the White House, they're on record by saying they'll destroy the filibuster and add justice to the United States Supreme Court. And by the way, they'll add D.C. As a state to have permanent power. That's what this is all about. And so these proposals from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are patently unconstitutional. It's hardly the point. They want to continue to sow this division. It's shameful. You know, Joe Biden was chairman of the Judiciary Committee when he was in the Senate. The fact that he has become what he is now in you know, again, claiming that others are a threat to democracy. Again, we've seen what the threat to democracy is, and it is Biden and Harris.
Do you have any, I was going to say, do you have any doubt in your mind that Ms. Kamala Harris agrees with Joe Biden? Whatever she may say publicly, you know, it's like fracking. I didn't really say a ban on fracking. Well, yes, you did, ma'am. But, I mean, do you have any reason to believe she wouldn't pursue this agenda? And just as an addendum to that, the immunity, this is, to some extent, just because the Supreme Court 6-3 gave the president immunity for official acts, not all acts, official acts, as you know better than I know. And that's something that could help Joe Biden. You know, who knows? But the point is, they want a constitutional amendment over immunity? Really? I mean, how petulant is that?
Well, and I think they're trying to gin up enthusiasm. And once this honeymoon period is over, Larry, once we get after the convention, after Labor Day, the American people are going to be left with the choice, which is the prosperity and the peace that they had under President Trump, and quite literally the most radical progressive ever nominated by any party in the history of the country, and that's Kamala Harris. When they start to sort of dive into, you know, her support for the Green New Deal, her support for court packing, you know, being the deciding vote on, you know, a lot of these inflationary policies that Joe Biden got through the Senate. I mean, she was the tie-breaking vote on that, literally. And her, you know, soft on crime stance. The American people are going to pick President Trump, but they've got this time period right now where they're trying to generate enthusiasm between Kamala Harris and now, you know, I guess running against the Supreme Court. We'll see how that plays out, but I think that's a pretty cynical play. And again, it's a dangerous play because, by the way, if you want to get to 13, why not 25? Why not 50?
Yeah.
Why not 100?
Yeah.
There's no limiting principle to this if it's just about power and control and getting the results you want.
Heck yeah. All right. Senator Eric Schmitt, we appreciate it, sir. As always, thanks very, very much.
Thanks, sir.